Hello there, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I've got a good video for you this evening. It's entitled Reality Has a Way of Imposing Itself Eventually. I don't sit around and contemplate topics for videos. The inspiration just sort of comes to me. And as of late last night, I had nothing. I thought, I don't know, maybe I'm not going to make a video this week because I just had no inspiration whatsoever, which is unusual. I normally get a thought by the middle of the week, and then I get a chance to sort of chew on my thought through the week. But I got a email from a viewer of these videos, and in the email at the bottom there was a quote that sort of grabbed me. Excuse me. The quote was, "Reality has a way of imposing itself." I added the eventually part. The quote was by this woman's brother, a man named Timothy J. Gipe. And he lived from 1951 until 2009. So I asked this woman for permission to use the quote, and this is what she wrote me. She said, "Yes, my brother was an incredible person who was a paraplegic for 51 years, but he was never disabled. He married twice, worked his entire adult life when he could have sat back and collected disability. He was reading Dostoevsky." That shows how literarily genius I am. I can't even pronounce it. "At 10 years old, probably because he was in an iron lung for a year at 6 years old." That would expand your brain, wouldn't it? "I've learned that there are a lot more people disabled walking around than my brother ever was in his wheelchair." So this video is to honor this man, Timothy J. Gipe, who sounds like a great man who had this brilliant quote, "Reality has a way of imposing itself." This man had some difficult realities. None of his limbs worked. You know, I complain that my back hurts and I can't run up and down the court at age 56 quite as well as I used to. I think I'm pretty blessed. So, finding out the truth, having reality imposed upon you, is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Our traumatization that we go through is awful. and I have so much compassion for everybody that I work with that goes through such things. But our being traumatized, when does that happen? It happens when we're introduced to some brutal reality. And I think I would have rather, part of me would rather have stayed in denial and stayed in darkness. But it's better to know the truth about yourself. It's better to know the truth about your significant other. Even if those truths are just horrific truths, they're truths. There's a brilliant teacher out there named Byron Katie, and she has a book called Loving What Is. Because what is. You might as well love it, because that's what is. That's the truth. That's the reality. Figure out why it happened to you, make peace with it, and when life gives you lemons, make the most delicious lemonade possible. Life gave me some lemons starting on April 26th of 2015. By the way, today is my 10-month anniversary of my shattering. Those aren't birthday candles in the back, but they are in celebration of my 10-month birthday. It's a big deal for me. I think I'm going to have a big-ass party on the 1-year anniversary. Invite everybody who supported me. Have a party. I survived a blood-sucking vampire, borderline psychopath party. Now I'm thriving. Woohoo. But I got some pretty nasty lemons. They were poisonous. They were radioactive. They were lit on fire. They were raining from the sky like a biblical plague. It was like the friggin' apocalypse, raining poisonous lemons hitting me in the head, lighting me on fire. That's what life was giving me. And you know what? Through God's grace and the support of the community of my fellow recovery people, through a lot of hard work, through gaining insight into this concept of narcissistic abuse syndrome, through more hard work and through gallons of tears, I'm starting to make some pretty damn good lemonade out of the whole thing. Who knew? So here were 15 realities that were imposed upon me starting on April 26, 2015. The first one was this woman who I thought I loved, who I thought she loved me. During her grand finale, in the one-page letter that she dismissed me without really saying goodbye, she had the line, "I love you, and I always will." But the first reality that comes to mind is that she doesn't love me, and she never did. That's the truth. She was a antisocial personality individual looking to get paid, looking to have her bills paid, and she was not somebody who was genuine, but she was a con artist. Number two, her heart, as addictive and narcissistic and genuinely unloving, but at least in a sick, romantic, addictive way, her heart belonged to her fellow psychopath, and it never belonged to me. And part of the grand finale was she had a pretty easy decision from her addict self, and that is she went to the treatment center to treat her addiction to him, and then she decided, I think with the treatment center support, to continue to have the relationship with him. Number three, I had been lied to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And now I look back and I'm going, that was a lie, that was a lie, that was a lie, that was a lie. Another sort of ugly reality was I had gained weight. I think I was depressed from 6.5 years of having a parasite feed off of me and manipulate me and abuse me. And I was oblivious to how irrelevant and how unattractive I had become to her. Some of the most brutal reality was my PTSD symptoms, my trembling hands. The only good thing that happened was that I lost 53 pounds. my panic attacks, difficulty sleeping, need for treatment, couldn't work. You know the symptoms. Pain in my chest, racing heart. I was so hyperkinetic that I couldn't sit down. I had to pace the room. I was shattered into a billion pieces. Number 6, reality. Just today, for the first time in a year, I sat down and I have this document where I sort of chronicle where my finances are at. And ever since the shattering, I was too scattered to deal with it. And then this past 4 or 5 months, I was so deeply mired in financial difficulties, I just kept shoveling, and it didn't seem worth it to analyze it. But I finally went through and organized things, and I know exactly where I'm at and what I need to do, and I'll do it. But because I couldn't work for a couple of months, and because I spent every nickel and my whole credit limit on treatment just in order to survive, I had some really ugly financial realities. Number 7, I was abused by the Bridge to Recovery, a treatment center in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I am going to get to file a grievance against them soon. I'll let you know how that goes. But I was I was shattered and broken into a million pieces and just barely surviving and suicidal. And then I had this treatment center align them. It was like a bunch of professional flying monkeys flying in and throwing rocks at me and sort of trying to kill me, it felt like. The next one, number 8, it didn't really bother me as I've thought of it, but just the utter humiliation of knowing that, this woman I put a ring on twice and lived my life around had not only had sex with this guy, well over 1,000 times, but I think pretty sure she had sex with quite a few people besides him. And, that's sort of a humiliating fact, but I was so destroyed by the PTSD and my still addiction to her and just my need to survive that I didn't really contemplate just how utterly humiliated I had been. I came back to work on July the 23rd of this year. I had about 4 or 5 clients. Some of my clients had seen the damage that was done to me, and they transferred to other therapists in my practice. And then when you bug out for 2 months and don't communicate a single word, people have a tendency to lose trust in you. So I had always been booked as a therapist, but all of a sudden I had 4 or 5 clients, and I could barely handle those due to the exhaustion, getting back to the PTSD symptoms. I suffered from debilitating exhaustion and depression. So another one of the horrific realities that were pinching in on me was very few people heard me. Very few people respected me. I wasn't believed. I was seen as sort of a crazy person. Whether that was my family of origin, that treatment center, even my staff, some of my clients, some of my friends, didn't really understand why I was in so much pain and why I had acted the way I did in the middle of my trauma. So that powerless feeling of not being heard, it's just one of the worst things possible. Then there was the grand finale where I was dispatched with a 1-page letter, just ruthlessly, coldly. Haven't heard from this individual since in 10 months. And I'm glad at this point I haven't heard from her. But at the time, it was a real punch in the face. So here are some other realities that have imposed themselves upon me. And these are helpful. And those realities are, I was the one who selected her over and over and over again. I had responsibility. I did have power because I needed to reenact my family of origin wounds. It's number 13. I was abandoned very young as an infant, where I came out raging because I was induced. My mother was ill. She couldn't take care of me. Plus, she was sort of self-centered. So she left me to cry and rage unattended. And you know how a baby rages and cries and turns purple? I did that for the first year of my life. And that's sort of who I was at my core. So I needed to arrange a love relationship where I was wounded that bad. And I sure did. I spent many hours howling at the moon, sounding like a wounded animal. And I was a wounded animal. And there was rage in my voice. And there was just an intensity and just a overwhelming hurricane gale voice intensity to the wounding in my crying. I needed that. I needed that in order to heal the core of me. Number 14, a reality that has presented itself and imposed itself to me is I've been made healthier. I'm much more empathetic. I've been told that I'm sweeter. And it sounds funny. I know that I'm more humble. I'm pretty sure that it's hard to be arrogant when you've been through what I've been through. It'll knock the arrogance right out of you. So, the classic movie line about truth from Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men: you can't handle the truth. And for 6.5 years, I could not handle the truth. It was sort of evident right in front of me, but I couldn't handle it. But there came a time when it imposed itself. Eventually, some of you have been deceived for 30 years, but eventually, if you're with a psychopath, you'll eventually figure it out. You might figure it out 2 years later as you Google something on the internet. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for YouTube, for all the truth that we can learn in our searching after our devastation, after our shatterings. I'm certainly a lot less naive. I believe I'm more discerning. I know I'm a better therapist, and I know I'm a better man. These are some lovely realities that have been imposing themselves upon me. The last one is learning all this, doing all the crying, doing all the healing. It's turned into a launching pad for my career, and a very powerful launching pad for my personal life as well, because it's given me the healing that I've never been able to have because I was never so severely broken. And oh my God, you guys know how hard it is. I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. Take the hardest thing I've ever gone through and times it by 100. That's how hard it was. But if you learn what you have and you treat your PTSD and you get all the therapy that's available, and you exercise and you get a juicing machine and you do yoga and you see a good talk therapist and you do EMDR, and there's a fellow who says, he's called me from France, and he said, if you're in your office and or if you're somewhere and you're having a panic attack, get out there and just sort of walk like you're marching, and that'll shift you out of your panic attack and into your body, and it actually works. I've been walking around like that here today, as I was working and sort of physically tense and physically stiff. So reality, as they say, is a bitch, but reality is our teacher. Our teacher, this Timothy Gipe, who was trapped in a wheelchair with limbs that didn't work, paraplegic. I guess he means two of his limbs worked. He wasn't a quadriplegic, paraplegic. But he couldn't get up and walk. He couldn't run. So those were some difficult realities, but it sounds like he still became a great man. And you, my friends, who've had some horrific realities come crashing in upon you, you've had flaming, poisonous, radioactive lemons falling from the sky, threatening to destroy you. Collect those lemons and make some delicious lemonade. Make a life that makes sense, that's healthy, that's kind, that's sweet, that's non-addictive, that's discerning and wise, and don't trust people until they earn it. And you, my friends, will be blessed. So embrace your realities, no matter what it is. Love what is. Learn from what is. Take what is and make it into the stuff of your dreams. If you haven't joined our YouTube channel, please subscribe. And I do have 5 books for sale from our website, familytreecounseling.com. At the top there of the screen, you can click and it'll take you to our website, where if you just type in your email address, you get 2 free ebooks that I had written. And then you'll be notified when I write another book or make another video. So also, I am available for Skype appointments. Those are pretty limited. I'm a little bit pricey, but I do have people on my staff who are trained who can see you for a lower fee. So God bless you, folks. Embrace your realities. It all means something. It all fits together. It all pieces together. Mother Nature heals us and the wounds of our childhood, unfortunately, through our love lives, where we're going to be attracted strongly to people who are very much like the people who wounded us growing up. I didn't create that system. I'm just telling you that it's true. So, hope you have a wonderful day today. Thank you for watching, and God bless.